He's not.
Well, Jan wasn't coming, he told me I was.
Whoop, we gotta switch it over. Sure.
Welcome to the town council meeting budget hearing for June 3rd, 2025. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask everybody to stand for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Join me for a moment of silence. Thank you. And we will move on to item number 6, public hearings. We do have one tonight, and Jack, would you like to read ordinance 2501, please?
Ordinance 2501, the town of Pittsfield hereby ordains that the 2025 fiscal year 2025-26 capital budget amended as of May 20th, 2025 be approved as follows. Capital equipment and public works, 20,000, police, 37,795, parks and recreation, 5,000, paving, 162,500, bridges and culverts, 265,200, total capital budget, $490,495.
For a motion from the council?
Make a motion that we open to public hearing ordinance 2501.
A second. Moved and seconded. Are there any questions from the audience on ordinance 2501 regarding the capital equipment, capital improvements budget? Hearing none. Are there any questions, concerns, or comments from council regarding capital improvement? Hearing none. We're good.
I'll voice mine. I was waiting. I'll voice mine. Is this when we're gonna?
Yeah, if you want to talk about something to do with capital.
Yeah,
Now's the time.
Yeah, so I have two concerns on this, and I'll start out by saying this, and by no means a reflection of my dedication to the town and what we're trying to accomplish here. Simply from a financial position, a dollar and cent position, and with the extraordinary numbers that we're seeing this year, I don't feel comfortable with a couple of the line items here. Number one, the police cruiser, and number two, the additional 40,000 in paving that we added. And that's where I guess my concerns lie on the capital side.
Okay. What would you propose that we do?
I would like to move the paving back to the original recommended or original budgeted for 122,500. Looking at the cost of paving materials this year, looking at the interest for a loan this year to do significant paving, it just does not seem feasible. We do have a project that could be well covered by the 122 with additionals left over. And I think that still allows us to address at least two areas in the town this year. We've done 3 years of significant paving back to back to back. And I think that we can kind of set ourselves up for next year where we can kind of go guns blazing and start to get this thing taken care of.
Okay, Jack, did Annalise get back to us?
I don't have anything in terms of,
How far that was?
how far we could shim with our paving budget
Mhm.
with 122.
Yeah, we increased the 40,000 and that was due to the reconstruction of Lancey Street, correct? So that's kind of why we increased that. There's a portion of this that would be covered by, that we get from the state, right?
Right, if you look on the summary sheet, you can kind of see that, we get. 77,500 from state road assistance. And we're actually utilizing that for paving.
Oh, right,
And so. That. Brings the amount of the 162.5. That's actually coming from the tax commitment is 85,000. So we do use. The state revenues we're proposing for paving here, to be part of this.
right, so the 162 is actually
85.
85
So what are the,
and 40 of the 80. Well, I guess, yeah. 40 of, some of that is
some portion of that?
Lancey and then the rest would
So I
go
agree.
towards. I
Definitely agree with the Lancey Street piece, right? I mean, that's gotta be done. That street. Has been a topic of discussion for the 4 years I've been here, but what are the other two skim coating projects that we're looking at that's gonna be covered by that?
think we would do as much as we could in Birchwood Terrace.
Yeah,
area.
that area is all slated for infrastructure work.
Sure.
So really the best treatment would be pavement, just straight pavement repairs or shim up in that area. And I think the best use of the 22.5 would be to just kind of maintain until we can get into those areas and replace the water and sewer and then do the drainage and then the road construction, so that we're not getting back into it. So you can't do a whole lot with 122.5, but what you can do is just do surface treatments on some of the worst areas, fill wheel ruts, and just make it easier to plow, get water, at least off the road where it ponds in the road and places, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly don't think it's a waste of money, but ideally it'd be a lot more going towards paving, but. Based on all the other commitments that we have, 120, 162 is. But. I don't know, how does anybody else feel? I think we kind of went over it.
Paving roads is one of those things like leaking roofs, they don't get any better or any cheaper to do the longer that you leak.
Right,
And it's kicking the can down the road and the can just gets bigger and harder to kick the next time you come around to look at it.
I
right,
feel like that's one of those things that we hear most about.
yeah, I mean, I think it definitely is, and, I don't think Craig's saying that we don't have that issue, but.
No.
To have a plan in place, and that's. I don't know if people have noticed that, we put, money in the budget for a paving plan. Hire a company to actually put that together and. So that we are kind of working towards a goal and have a nice plan laid out for. Not only fixing the roads, maintaining the roads that we have done. Craig, you mentioned that we've done a lot of roads in the last 2 or 3 years. We haven't crack sealed any of those, we haven't done any kind of maintenance, so I don't think. It's certainly not gonna be wasted in any way, and I understand like. The need to minimize taxes and all that, but at the same time, you gotta. These, like Heather said, and other people know, they're not getting any better.
Right, but at the end of the.
And last year, we didn't put much in, last year was only 100,000, I think, so.
Right, but we had leftover from the year before. So
We did,
I think
but-
there were 6 roads that were done last year.
Right, but.
So, and understood. I guess here's my big problem with it is. We're literally, what we're putting into it, especially, and Birchwood's a mess, just like Lansing is, right? It needs to be addressed.
Right.
And it is a major I don't travel that much, but when I do. Quite obviously noticeable that it needs to be repaired. But what we're doing is literally gonna be potentially torn up in a year. Or in a very short period of time, right? And it's almost like. Is that worth the spend?
Thought we were making sure that didn't happen.
Right, so we wouldn't propose to put anything on Birchwood itself where we know we're gonna dig next year.
Okay.
Word.
But some of the other streets around there, they could be 5 years out.
Be
before we're done.
Hemlock, Maple, Harbor. There's, when I say Birchwood, I just kind of mean
Yeah.
the
Yeah, no, I
whole
got
cul-de-sac, I don't just say,
Okay, and that's my mistake.
Birchwood, the road, but. You know, Hamilton, all those roads are
That was terrible.
terrible,
Oh,
so
yeah.
if we can kind of put lipstick on a pig for a year or whatever it might be, then. You know, we gotta do something, so. I don't know. We can. I don't know if you wanna do it like I mean, I'm content with the paving.
Me
But. But you can obviously vote any way you'd like, so I mean, that's fine. And then you mentioned, the
What's your thought on it?
the cruiser, yeah, what's your thoughts on the
So-
cruiser?
It's gonna be that same kick it down the road for one more year kind of conversation, and again, it's not a lack of commitment to. The police force that we have here, I think that Vinny and his team have done a remarkable job, in making their presence felt, in becoming. Part of the community and integrating into that. At the same time, I go back to the discussion that you asked, and when you asked the question, what are the significant repairs that we're having with that thing, right, with the one that's being replaced, and. Yes, we do have a significant repair coming, I believe it's $3,000 to $4,000 for a catalytic converter system. In the grand scheme of things, 3,000 to 4,000 versus 37,000. Being pushed to a year when. Jack has had an opportunity to kind of dig further into this. We're asking him to do an awful lot in 3.5 months?
Right.
And. That level of digging, I just think that the impact we have, nowhere in here, I don't believe is mentioned. The impact of what. The school budget's gonna be to this as well, right? So. We do have some knowledge that there's a potential for a significant increase. With the school budget as well, and when looking at that total, everything in totality.
Right.
The change to the taxes this year, and, well. We know there were some stuff that we have to make up for. At the end of the day, every dollar counts.
Yeah.
And I just think that if we can get one more year out of it, if it's a way that we can prioritize what we do have. Maintaining the better vehicles on the road the most, if you have room for a spare, whatever that is with the. Resource officer being changed to part-time, if that changes, vehicle usage in any way, then I think that that's one way to look at that and just kind of. Pause for a moment.
Yeah.
One thing I wanna point out is, and it goes to the summary sheet, and anybody who wants to follow the budget in 3 pages instead of 60 pages, summarizing on the table there. But, the column 6, where we're showing revenues and how they attribute to different activities, if you go down to line 31, where you see the 37,795 police cruiser, that's proposed to come out of fund balance and not taxes. So what we really did, because we wanted to, we have a revenue issue this year, that we're trying to address, and we're using fund balance. So not only do we use fund balance on some of the one-time items like the culvert and bridge repair and finishing up the reval, but we also used fund balance on the capital items other than paving, just because We have to use up the state money, that's part of the requirement of getting it, so it's that was the only one that didn't use fund balance, so we're reducing the capital anymore, just requires to use more fund balance if you wanted to hit the mill rate, reduction with it. So it's, I just want to point that out because we are trying to think of anything that's a one-time, and capital really
And I
fits
think
that.
that's unique to this year. It's not going to, we're not gonna be the same situation moving forward, really.
Right.
Well, we will. Next year.
We have a
most
couple,
likely.
we have a couple of years to work out of the, the revenue issue.
Revenue
that we're in. We have a couple of years to work out of that, and so, and some of these things that we're using fund balance for, I won't propose that we use it going forward, but we'll have to look at the big picture and see, see where we stand. But looking at it in terms of, it's a capital expense we're gonna use fund balance for, not hitting the mill rate with it, then that's a cruise that we don't have to think about mentioning next year.
Well,
Because I don't think there would be one next year in the proposal, I think it would be like every two. So,
well, it's usually just 2 out of 3 years, right?
Yeah, you skip the next.
We didn't do last year though.
We did.
Or we did,
Yeah,
we did
vehicle last
yours
year.
last year.
If we don't use the fund balance towards this, we'd use the fund balance towards offsetting additional, so it's gonna be,
It's gonna be used somewhere.
this is, right, it's gonna be used somewhere, so it's either.
Right.
Vinny, get Matt, I'm gonna address.
Yeah, no, that's, yeah.
Come on,
What do you got?
what's this do to you if we don't do it?
What does it do to me?
What's it do to the force? Are we putting you in danger?
Well, I mean, I think you're keeping a car on the road that should not be used for emergency response. I think as these cars age, and again, I know 136,000 miles in the big picture is not a lot, but 136 miles on an emergency response vehicle, that could be an issue, It's not the same vehicle that's in someone's driveway. This is something that needs to go someplace very quick when it needs to be. And needs to make it down the road and really down roads that most cars don't go down, so. I mean, at the end of the day, it's your guys' decision to make and, whatever that is, we'll make work, it's just business, so.
And I think you alluded to, there's no way to rotate that one so that it's, less use than. All the cops obviously have their own, I guess, so
Well,
someone's using this one all the time, but.
Yeah, it's really not their own, so.
Well, no, but.
So, yeah, basically, on their days that they work, typically, they'll take it home. We were in a weird situation here recently because we were down positions.
Sure.
So they were just taking them. But now that as soon as Gabe gets trained up, it's gonna be that same rotation now is, it's gonna be sitting here and for the next officer to take.
Right, so I mean, I guess to Craig's point, could that vehicle be one that they don't take? Could they take a different one home? And that would limit some of the wear and tear on a more.
We can always come up with some other.
I mean, I'm just trying to, thinking out loud to his concern, I guess, but,
Well, remember, the ones that are going home, they're also on call for,
that's right, yeah,
while they're there.
right,
So, they could get home and get an emergency call where they gotta be back, as quick as they can.
right, yeah,
So,
and then they would need that vehicle anyway.
right, I mean,
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
Is there a
I get it.
standard or best practice that? Or age of a vehicle
yes,
or mileage?
usually about 100,000 miles is when you start.
That's what I'm trying
looking.
to find real
Yeah.
fast.
That,
100,000 miles.
about 100,000 miles, you start
I'm
wanting.
finding 100,000 miles in 5 years.
Yeah, cause that's when things,
Standard
even
for
regular cars, that's when
warranty
things
and
start
all that
breaking down.
Yeah,
You magnify that when you're talking about a car that's driven a lot more than your standard, consumer car. So, again, these are for commercial use, they get beat on. There's really no way to go around, you say it, but they get
My
beat
quick
on.
searches are saying between 90 and 125,000 miles. Over 5 years.
And when I got here, just so you know, I was very surprised that we had cars on the road with as many miles as that were on there. It was just strange to me to see, but it is what it is.
good. Anything else? Greg? No?
Hey, Craig,
Right.
business, I get it. Just so you know, I get it,
I'll do whatever I can for you.
I get it.
I can't say it on camera, but I'll be willing to. Know what I'm saying? I got a tractor, we can take care of some business, you know what I mean? What I'm saying is, I'll do whatever I can for the police department, but
I get it.
I have to look at dollars and cents, right? At the end of the day, we have a large impact.
I get it.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Any questions? We lowered public works to 20,000 because it was on the lease purchase.
Yeah, so we moved we moved the excavator to, whatever the balance is after trade-in, we moved that to a lease purchase. And then we, are going to, allocate some of the, tank removal, or tank certification money to equipment. We were thinking that the, fuel tank issue was gonna be 58, and we were looking at closer to maybe 28. So that's why we brought that down from, I think the original was
70.
from 70 to 20.
Any other questions, concerns, comments regarding capital? Pete? No?
No.
Everybody good? All right, since we're ready to vote, all those in favor of ordinance 2501, please signify by saying aye.
So I gotta amend it, on it.
Yeah.
I gotta open,
Oh,
because it's open for discussion.
oh, yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Alright, make a motion that we amend. Motion for ordinance 2501?
Yep.
2501, to approve ordinance 2501. Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor of approval of ordinance 2501, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
All right, we have to do a poll. Pete, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. Greg?
Nay.
Heather?
Aye.
I vote aye. And
Aye.
Natalia votes aye. And Eric is not here. Ayes have it. Ordinance 2501 passes. Moving on to ordinance 2502.
Ordinance 2502, that the town of Pittsfield hereby ordains that the 2025 fiscal year 2025-2026 operating budget in the amount of $5,406,155 amended as of May 20th, 2025 be approved, and the total sum of $5,896,650 be approved for the municipal budget, operating plus capital budgets. And further, that $1,768,910 be raised through taxation of the following appropriated from estimated revenues. General revenue, $1,628,310. State revenue sharing, $1,008,400. Other revenue sources, $606,035. An additional sum of $884,995 be appropriated from undesignated fund balance to fund the operating and capital budgets. And further, that the 2025 water department budget of $606,580 be appropriated from estimated water department revenues. And that the sewer department budget in the amount of $474,642 be appropriated from estimated sewer department revenues and sewer department fund balance. Sewer revenue, $406,889, sewer fund balance, $67,753.
Look for a motion from the council.
Make a motion that we open ordinance 2502 public hearing.
Moved and seconded. Are there any questions, concerns, or comments on ordinance 2502 regarding the budget for fiscal year 2025 and 2026? Hearing none from the audience. Are there any questions, concerns, or comments from the council? I guess I'll bring up one real quick. We discussed at one point converting one of the dump trucks from a sanding truck for the winter to a salt truck. Jack, you guys looked into that. And yeah, if you could just.
Yeah, so I'll summarize it, and then if I get anything wrong, Bonnie can correct me. But we have a truck that is able to be outfitted with the equipment to spread salt. The spreader, and then we need to have a spreader and a calibrator, which basically program the amount of salt that you wanna put down per unit of distance. And it's very economical use of salt, and then you can eliminate, well, maybe virtually eliminate the use of sand in the areas that you do that. And so, we looked at the cost of getting the equipment that we need to do it, and we feel we could do that for $7,000. And then when we look at, the gain from using less sand and the offset we're gonna use more salt and less sand, we feel that we're gonna net that $7,000 so that it's basically a 1-year payback. If we just, instead of buying extra sand, if we buy the equipment, then we'll have that benefit year after year. And then, so we can get set up this year with the budget the way it is. We will be putting less sand down. We'll be in the in-town areas, we would just do the salt priority, so we'd have less sweeping to do. And so we feel that we could save realistically $4,000 on the sweeping budget by having less road to sweep next spring. And then next year, we're gonna have even more savings because we'll have a full winter without sand on the in-town streets where we're doing this. We'll have less washing into the basins, we're gonna have less vacuuming to do. So we get some savings now, we get a lot more next year when we've got the equipment paid for, we're using less sand, we're sweeping less, and then we'll have less to vacuum.
And that proposal would just be to outfit one truck and see how it goes. And obviously, if something should happen, we can go other routes, but I think it's kind of a no-brainer, and that's something that we would implement now, if you guys are good with. So on the budget, the only thing that would change would be the catch basin and street sweeping be reduced by $4,000.
We could reduce that by 4,000.
So that's within that public works highway operations.
That would be,
And it's in the operations line, all right?
would be on page 20 in the book, and it would be 10-05, 10-05. No, excuse me, that's no, that's the 10-05, 25-. Page 21.
Basin cleaning and sweeping goes from 16 to 12.
Yep.
And it'll go lower as we keep going. That was my one thing. I had another question that's a little. I saw there was chipping in the transfer station. So you guys chip all that wood, or you pay somebody to chip all that wood?
The chippings you see there right now are from the actual tree company that are doing their out there too, so that's no chips are free to take. Mulch, yeah.
Oh, it's not. Yeah.
And the brush pile gets chipped, pretty much bi-yearly now, so. Depending on, obviously, the storms and the amount that gets hauled in, but I think the last time we went 13 months. So we got caught in one budget, chip, and then before budget, we didn't spend,
So a company comes in and chips in place, they haul it off, or what do they do?
yes, they haul it off, they pay us for the chips, so.
Oh, they pay
That
you,
went off, which offsets the cost of our shipping, part of our shipping, so.
okay, and that's in revenues? I
Yes,
missed that part, but, yeah, okay, yeah, I saw there was like almost 12 grand for chipping, so.
Yeah.
Just thinking we could sell it or something, but obviously if people are paying for it, then we're good.
we sell it.
Yep, perfect.
Offset
So
cost.
back to the salt.
Oh, sorry.
Is there a
Go ahead.
possibility to lease that equipment where it's gonna be kind of a science project?
I don't know. I don't know if we could.
No,
use-
Absolutely, no, it's just actually, he said we needed $7,000 for all of that, but. Different metering system for different truck. That was one of the questions I got asked too. It's 1 year payoff, and we're gonna save the salt, so it's, at the end of the day, it is a science project. State's been doing it for quite a while, they've had really good results with it. I will tell you that I was amazed. It's 4 tons of salt per storm for 13 miles of our roads. And if we paid $87.50 for our salt last year, if it goes up to 100, that's $400 a storm for salt for 13 miles of your roads. You're not gonna get it any cheaper than that.
Right.
I mean, they
Yep.
seem to have good luck with them. Every once in a while, like about a calibration, so there's like $164 or something, has to make more, make sure the calibration's on. They say every once in a while, just because of the equipment, the way it's used, that I thought that the maintenance part of it was either cheap too, so. I think we're hoping that we're gonna see an immediate result next spring when it comes to the sweeping and the catch basins.
Any other things regarding the overall budget? From anybody? You don't have to wait.
I was waiting. Go ahead and take a couple swings at the 2 most popular kids in school. Chief.
Back
Guess not.
He's like salt.
Question for you.
Yeah.
With our hope, appearances being that we're gonna be mostly fully staffed for years. Is there anything that we can look at on the overtime line? Do you feel? It's about a 20,000 increase overspent last year, just kind of looking at that.
Well, yeah, the reason why the overtime has been increased this year is because of, we're sending somebody to the academy.
Okay.
And that's the only reason, of the increase. And we haven't sent anybody to the academy since, I guess, Marty,
Awesome.
Austin was, mini Marty, was the last one to go.
Okay.
So we've been just giving bonuses to people and they kind of come and go and this time I'm able to get someone that lives in town, invest into somebody that lives in town, so I think that's kind of important.
And I
The
guess,
overtime is covering because he's working, but he's not on duty, he's going to class. So you need overtime. to cover
Right, so we have to pay him,
Yeah.
and then we gotta backfill his spot while he's gone at the academy for the 18 weeks, so.
so theoretically, next year we should be able to see.
Oh, yeah, next year it'd be
That
down.
line should be down quite a bit.
And I'm even cutting some here now, when, I kind of modified his training. So he's working with, me, or Marty supervising, like, I'll come on the weekend. And, I'll just rearrange my schedule and kind of observe him and be his FTO, so I'm not having to pay somebody to fill in his overtime right now.
Gotcha,
So we can finish the training process, so
understood.
just do what we can.
Have to ask the question.
Okay.
Gotta ask the question.
It's an investment, I'd
Yeah,
say.
it's just, I remember half of what we've said, it's nice to get a little refresher before I raise my hands and go.
Well, and I'll tell you, because when I had this conversation with Jack, it was one of the things that he brought up and about how much, that it will be for him to be gone. So,
Right.
which it was something he picked up on, so.
Yeah.
I was appreciative of that, so.
Yeah. All right, next piece. Done. We have started to replace a lot of equipment. that's your maintenance budget. Any room in that at all? I've seen the spend's been up the last couple of years, Jason and I talked about this, obviously, at the last meeting.
Craig, what page you looking at? 19?
So it's gonna be
21?
21.
Little line.
No, sorry, 20, page 20, on the newest one.
Okay, got it. Yep.
Maintenance 93.5.
Oh,
85,000. 85,000.
Oh, motor vehicle.
Yeah,
Yeah, sorry.
1505.
Yeah.
Line 1505 on page 20.
Yeah.
85,000. So I obviously know, right, some of that's been going to street sweeper. It's been in the shop 3 times this year, I think.
No,
One of those street sweepers been in there all, they've been
That's
pulling
contract.
down back for 2 years.
it's contracted.
All right,
Street
well,
sweepers contracted out.
so where is this, where is
Motor
this?
vehicle maintenance, you got a 2002. Wheeler dump truck. You've got a 2006 International red dump truck. You've got, the newest truck you got is a 2016 truck that are plowing, doing heavy duty use in winter time. Our fleet is done, other than, we've got a 2008 truck. Finding parts has been difficult, I'll be honest. The 2002 is about ready to puke. Right now, it's about ready to go back on the boneyard, and you know, this is what I was trying to, a couple of years ago, talking about, I am replacing our fleet, but replacing our fleet is we bought 3 trucks for 3 dump trucks with plows and sanders on them for $180,000. When one new truck is $225,000. And it was supposed to be a temporary fix. And every time I come in here, you guys will give me $30,000, I'm spending 60, we slowly have crept up that line.
Yeah.
And I
Oh, I
think
see
it's
it.
problematic as a taxpayer that we're paying this type of money on trucks that I feel we're wasting money, and then when I was trying about motor vehicle maintenance, needing more money, they said, well, $100,000 is not a lot of money. I think $100,000 spent on vehicles is a lot of money.
Yeah.
And your average fleet is 16 or 17 years old. You're expecting these guys to go out 36 hours in these trucks and go up and down these roads and plow these roads. We have 54 miles of roads. At some point, and I agree with you, Craig, it's the amount of motor vehicle maintenance is crazy.
It is.
And it's only gonna get more expensive.
I mean, I see it every day, I deal with it.
Yeah,
I understand.
It drives
I
me
just-
nuts.
Are there big expenses that you fixed that won't happen again as far as?
When you're looking at an 18 or 20-year-old truck, you can roll the dice. It may run for, we might fix it, it might run for a year or 2, or it may last 2 weeks. And that's the guessing game that I get left with, is how are we gonna fix it? Well, we're not gonna fix it by, we're keeping them trucks on the road because we know it's important to keep the roads plowed, and we're trying to keep them as safe as possible. Some of those trucks, same thing. You get holes in the floorboard, they're rusting, when you start doing body work and fuel tanks rusting out, you're talking about a muffler, $4,000.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy, it's a
Oh, yeah.
200,000, and I know that Councilor Sazi said, well, $100,000 nothing, trying to keep it below that. We've got that international, we're international, we're doing 3 routes. So we got the 2016, we got a 2012, and we got the 2008 doing those 3 routes right now. Knock on wood, you keep them together, until we can come up with a plan, I guess.
I feel like Jack has kind of started a plan with
We
that,
kind of trying to.
the projection. We now know what we have, and
Yes.
we have an idea of what to expect. That's the closest we've been to being able to figure out what the future holds.
Mhm.
So I think we're getting closer.
And you know,
See things coming.
Yeah,
and one of the things too is, Greg, is we talked about this last time, you know, 16 or whatever, it's already 9 years old.
yeah.
But it's a heck of a lot better than a 26-year-old truck or a 24-year-old truck. So it's gonna take us time to get there, but we can, looking at the quality of vehicles and purchase them, and maybe even, we've got that 2012, maybe we can reach it. Try to get another 5 or 8 years out of it, rather than.
Be on some sort of cycle.
Yeah.
Alright. What else you got, Craig?
Last piece of the theater.
Oh,
Can I
yeah,
ask a question about while we're on highway?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
I had a note here, assessing salt priority, which you addressed, and then supplies, what's needed. And with the remaining 2025 6-month budget, there was supposed to be like an assessment of like what's left over that we didn't actually need to buy for the next budget. And I didn't know if that, I saw there was there's some movement here on items listed in here, but there's no change in the total overall amount of it.
Yeah, so, we reassessed how much we had in the 6-month budget and kind of, what we thought we needed. And when we added the gravel for Lancy Street, it basically was net
That was a
zero.
wash.
So we basically took the savings from that assessment and put it into the gravel for Lancy Street
Okay,
and didn't have to increase.
so
it.
it's just like we're keeping it the same, but we're gonna carry over
Right,
any
so,
materials.
so you
not
see
to
the-
spend in the next 27 days.
yeah, you see the reallocation so
Okay.
that we know we have the gravel for Lancy Street.
All right,
Yeah, I think it's a question, saying we have I've got salt on order, I'm gonna fill that salt shed, we've got some money in this budget, so I'm gonna pack that shed full, so will have a better impact on what we're doing this year, so we didn't need as much.
okay.
I do have one more question too. Small tools, 1510 equipment. 2022 spend $256, 23, $345, 2024, $40. 2025 spend $450. And we got 5,000 budgeted, and we still have $3,200 sitting in the bank for
Yeah.
the 6-month budget. My suggestion would be
Yeah.
spend your $2,700 you got sitting there, and let's wipe that 5,000 out.
Yeah.
And just zero that item out. I think
Yeah,
that's
we
an
need
easy.
some battery operated impact guns and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, for
There's money
27,
there to do it now.
for $2,700, you got that right now, spend it by the time the budget's done and be good, that commitment's already done, you know?
Jack can make that call today, so.
Okay, yeah,
I mean, Jack, you've never spent over a grand, you could at least move it down to
A grand,
Yeah.
more
but
than.
you still have, your
If
rate
not
still have the
zero.
I
current
mean,
year
it's not a
spent.
big hit, but it's money, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Every dollar.
Knock 4 off there and just.
I agree.
leave it a grand.
You wanna leave
Fine.
$1,000?
Yeah.
In case
So make
something-
sure you use what's there.
Yeah, use what you got this year, please, the 6
I
months.
can do that, so.
Well,
We'll make it
don't waste it, but yeah,
Right.
use it on stuff.
No, you know what you need.
Well, there's some things that I pulled off on too, because of motor vehicle maintenance.
Oh, yeah.
That,
Yeah.
oh God, I don't.
No,
Well, if you buy yourself some tools, you can knock a little bit off motor vehicle maintenance, that's what I'm hearing, that's what I hear.
Make
Buy a creeper, tool.
Send me the diesel, send me the diesel school, you'll keep.
Okay.
Mechanic school.
There.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Craig was
Going
moving.
to the theater.
Are you good, Heather?
Yeah.
That
No,
part,
Which page is there?
geez,
I just had it, it's like 35, I think.
Yeah, it's in the back.
Oh, do we, while we're looking at
35.
theater, do we, need to make any changes to our electricity if we're doing the contract? If we're changing the contract?
I don't think we've agreed on the contract stuff.
I wouldn't try to project anything on the power purchase thing. That would be something that we could, if we entered into a contract and then we're sitting here seeing some savings a year from now, we could roll that into the next budget.
Yeah.
That was a question I had too.
Yeah.
The power, with the theater versus even this office seems,
No, not the theater, the
or
library.
the library, yes.
Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
would- I would say like as a standard operating procedure, if it's below 20 degrees, that they shouldn't be running those heat pumps.
Yes.
They should be running.
I think we should, yeah,
Their fuel oil, whatever it is, because they- wild what they went through.
Yeah, those are old enough to be not efficient, the way the newer heat pumps are.
Right,
Right.
Some of them could be rated down to 20 degrees, but those I don't think are just.
Right.
We underuse our fuel spend every year there. That's what we were talking about.
Yeah, but we-
You underutilize the fuel, but we overutilize the electricity, and in the winter time, electricity's gonna beat you to death. I
Right.
don't know why we would not just flip a switch and go,
right,
so I was trying to find.
which, yeah, did we, I guess. Oh, yeah, it's like,
I mean, yeah.
it's like 3 times.
3.5 months in, I mean, you haven't had time to tackle all this, it just, some things stick out, you know?
Is that something we should, probably want to change, I guess? Where's the library?
There's a question here, I had a little note about coding, that we thought there might be a coding error on expenses for the heating. Line 30-10 in the library. Heating versus electricity.
30 years. Yeah, I think that's kind of what we were,
Like maybe flip flop?
no, I just think they run heat pumps,
I think it's the heat pumps.
Okay, so that's just some education.
which. I mean, I guess that would be a wash, and we have 18,000 in electricity for. The library. $1,500 a month in electricity. I'd be looking into some new heat pumps, maybe,
I mean, the town office is what, 15,000?
yeah. Yeah.
Well,
And
that's a
But
bigger building,
what's that?
the library is a bigger building.
It is, but I don't know if it doesn't have as many systems running, I would think the systems here keep, I mean, we're thinking about,
yeah,
like you saw that, I mean. So,
We're not using heat pumps here though, so we're gonna save on the electricity on that end of it.
hmm. Is that building? Oh,
Yeah.
oh, you're talking about for the library?
No, library has got the heat pumps.
Right, you're not gonna run them in the dead of winter,
I would
ideally.
hope,
Right.
You know, lesson learned there. You talking about
Maybe
this,
some
this,
education on when to.
are you
do
talking
that.
about this
I'm
building?
saying that this building, we don't have those old heat pumps running, so we wouldn't be as high in electricity.
As what you've got in here, or?
No, as the library.
Oh,
Right,
right,
right.
yeah.
so,
That's right.
does a large portion of what happens here go through the fire department? Through their electricity spend, because I was just looking at that too, that's like 55,000. So it's budgeted,
The fire.
Yeah.
Electricity.
yeah, 55 grand. $55,000, page 17. 3005.
Your spend's been higher than that.
Well, the streetlights.
Yeah, it's street
Streetlights.
lights,
The,
that's not fire.
yeah, it's right after fire.
Street
We went
lights.
to,
Oh, sorry.
We went to streetlights.
Sorry.
And,
The categories don't break out.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
I
I've done the
missed that,
same
okay.
thing. Mhm.
Holy crap.
I've done the
Sorry.
same thing.
Jeez.
stays under public safety, but then you go.
Yeah, I missed where the header changed, okay.
But it's worth pointing out that we had, by going over to the LEDs, we saved on the streetlights because in 2023, we were spending
Yes,
almost 78,000.
yeah, you're right.
That's awesome. That's worth calling out. That's great. Significant savings.
Alright,
All that's pieces of the
Theater,
yeah, so the theater, we had, an organization come and they were talking about running the theater.
Well, we haven't.
We haven't addressed any of that.
We haven't, we talked about having them, here as an agenda item,
next meeting.
at a future meeting. We didn't specify. I did let them know that the earliest likely agenda space would be second June meeting, just looking at it at a budget calendar. So I think they would be available to meet with us, at our next meeting or
Right,
pretty much any meeting after that.
but their proposal was basically to take it over.
The proposal.
We own it,
The
they take
proposal
over.
was to, they would own it.
Purchase it.
We would convey it. They would own it, they would operate it, and we know the cost of it. Would be no.
Own and
So
operate.
not something we can really change in this budget at this time.
No, it would be potentially, depending on when that transition happened, with just be a balance left in this budget that we could, reallocate for fund balance or for,
Right.
use next year, be money we'd save.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Until we actually made that decision,
Yep.
we'd have a budget to continue.
But we can't take it out in case it doesn't.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, we were to be prepared to.
Yeah.
Carry the theater,
Okay,
we wouldn't necessarily have to go.
Yeah.
is there anything else at this time from anybody? I guess I would point out, I don't know if anybody's seen the notable changes that we've made since we got the budget. But we've reduced the budget that we were presented by $266,000. And then tonight, so now we're at like 275. That came at a lot of hard work by everybody, so we appreciate all the hard work that the town's done, that Jack's done, that the department heads. We certainly aren't taking anything lightly, and we don't just rubber stamp anything. We live here and it's our money too, so trying to hold everybody accountable and be efficient and move us forward, but be cognizant of the fact that everything's expensive and everybody's struggling, so yeah, just wanted to point that out. That yeah, we made significant changes and I think we're still moving in the right direction.
I'm glad you called it out, and I think Jack has done an exceptional job of leading us responsibly and
Yeah.
working really hard to find areas for improvement too, so thank you.
Yep, and
All the helpful recommendations.
there's a lot of good information that's very clear, very easy to read and understand, so. If you ever need to stop in and grab something that's kind of a cliff note version of. Where we've been, where we're at and where we're going type deal, so.
And that's on the website, if people
Very
want,
good.
it's on the website and the full budget is on the website, it's just, there's literally a budget tab. So.
Awesome.
So we need to amend the amount to new ordinance. Due to those changes.
Probably, right?
So we just amend as.
Reduced by 4,000.
As agreed.
As agreed, right?
It'd
I
be,
have to say the actual amount.
That's something.
Mm,
you could just amend it by, the total sum,
Of 8,000,
reduced by 8,000.
right,
Total sum of the operating, budget. Be reduced by the 8,000.
right,
I don't mind stating that, so
So the comprehensive plan is still an item remaining in the budget, right?
Yes, still there.
It's on there too.
so that'd be. 5.888650. Correct. Better than that, isn't it?
I will say,
Yeah. All right, I would like to amend. My motion. To adopt ordinance 2502. With the. Updated total sum, $5,888,650. To be appropriated for the municipal budget, operating plus capital.
Second.
moved and seconded. Since we're ready to vote, all those in favor of ordinance 2502, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, ordinance 2502 passes. So good. Moving on to. Oh, sure.
Jack, we changed the final amount of the sum appropriated by the municipal budgets. Do we also have to change the amount of rate through taxation down the road? Because it spells out.
well, that'll happen automatically. It's worth noting though that the $8,000 reduction, is in the expense side, and then when you go down to where it says and further, that 1,768,910 be raised for taxation, that will automatically, kick down by 8,000 to be,
Okay,
1,760,910,
okay.
so.
Good point, no, good catch.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, moving on to the town manager's report.
All about the budget.
Yeah.
Literally, but besides, getting things, updated and worked on, we got our, FY 25-26 insurance renewal applications submitted. So, I'll be on time with that, and we did get signed and we received our, revaluation contract signed, ink was dry.
Oh, boy.
Just so everybody knows.
Thanks,
And
John.
it's in the safe.
Perfect.
So that's done.
Good job.
Then doing a little bit of follow-up on our brownfield project. We're looking at, potentially for the former, Ford garage site. Reached out to the state, just to get some background information on underground tanks and confirm the timeline for recertification, which, we are due this fall. We knew that, but, looking at just making sure that stays on track, and we, did have a quote for doing the recertification, and so I reached out to the person that provided that to just make sure that's up to date. If there's any changes to that, that quote was put together in the fall of 04. So I'll just make sure that's up to date. Then I just want to point out a couple things. This weekend, we're gonna be busy with a lot of ATVs in town. ATVs are doing a memorial ride. They're gonna start here and ride to Greenville. There's gonna be a lot of parked vehicles and trailers and ATVs pulling out and coming in later in the evening on Saturday. And that's all part of a memorial ride that they're doing. And there's been some pre-planning and some arrangements for where the parking will be, so there won't hopefully be any issues with where people will be parking during the ride, things like that. And next week on June 12th kicks off the summer concert series at Park, and a lot of good music lined up for the summer.
And that's the last day of school.
Last day of school, yeah, summer's almost here officially.
Perfect. All set?
That's it.
Awesome, thank you. Moving on to item number 9, new business. We'll skip the first two because we already accomplished that. Resolution 2554, Jack.
So you might remember,
Can you read it
oh,
first?
sorry, John. Resolution 25, resolve to approve the main current transportation utility receivable agreement.
For a motion from the council?
I'll make a motion that we adopt resolution 2554.
Second.
Moved and seconded, don't all jump at once. Jack, just want a footnote version of what's going on, yes?
So probably 6 weeks ago, I think it was either early April or even late March, Annalise came in and we talked about the DOT's reconstruction of North Main Street. They're going to put this out to bid in September. They're gonna have a contractor lined up by the end of the year. They could even be starting some winter work. They're gonna be installing sidewalks, storm drains, and some of that conflicts with where our water and sewer is. And so we have to move some of our water and sewer in order to accommodate what the DOT's doing in terms of their reconstruction. So we talked about making sure that we could fund the utility coordination, and we looked at some of the excess funds that we had set aside for the utility departments. I think that was future sludge removal. We thought we were healthy enough with that fund to be able to make sure we could do this. So part of coordinating with the DOT, and I think the preferred way, what I would recommend is that we're actually part of the DOT's project, meaning they include our sewer utility work as part of their bid, as a bid addendum. That way, that same contractor that's working for them is actually doing our work, so there's no schedule conflicts, there's no delays. And there, you know, you've got the cost of the mobilization of the contractor is really in the DOT contract, so there's not the added cost of mobilization if we have to bring somebody new on. So this is a real efficient way for towns to work with the DOT. And so the DOT formalizes this in a utility receivable agreement, which you have a copy of. And I think the most important thing to note is that there's two options that we have. One is that we could just say, yes, we're gonna coordinate with the contract. And we'll be in it irregardless of what the bid price comes in at. The other option is we can choose the opt-out and say that if the bid price that DOT gets in the addendum is more than 15%, I think, more than 15% of what we estimate, then we would have the option to opt out. We wouldn't have to opt out, but we could at least re-examine it, especially if it came in, far in excess of what we thought. Annalise initially pegged this to be $210,000. But then she went and actually did the detailed design work and submitted to the DOT. And she brought that 210 down a little bit, so she's her better number after getting everything on paper is 198,300. And so that would be the number that would appear in our agreement with DOT. And if we choose the opt-out provision, if it came in 15% above that, we could regroup and say, do we want to stay in or not? It might still very well be beneficial to stay in, even if it comes in higher. But we would at least be able to have a conversation.
Is that, like, would we already be in the project about that? If there's cost overruns, would they already be in process?
No, the bid will come back. And if the bid is, if the bid is higher than our estimate by more than 15%, we have none. If the bid came in 10% higher, we wouldn't have, we would be in. So the DOT is basically asking for a commitment from us, but we either can choose to have an opt-out at anything above 15% or not.
All right, so that's really what then we can pick either option.
Yeah.
Tonight.
Yeah, and I would recommend, giving ourselves the opt-out.
Yeah.
Because there's no downside to it, and we at least get another conversation if we want to have one.
Right. Are there any questions from the audience on resolution 2554? Any questions from the council? Talked about it a little bit. I guess the only question is whether we go with the opt-out or not, and I think we're all in agreement. Opt-out's a good option, whether we exercise it or not. All right, since we're ready to vote, all those in favor of resolution 2554, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, resolution 2554 passes. Moving on to resolution 2555. Yeah.
Resolution 2555, resolve to approve the transfer of certain 2025 and 2026 airport capital improvement program funds consistent with the March 2021 cooperative agreement between the town of Pittsfield and the town of Rangeley.
Look for a motion from the council.
Make a motion that we adopt resolution 2555.
Second. Moved and seconded. Jack, just real quick. I think we're all fairly familiar with it.
Yeah, you probably recall that in the course of doing a hangar project, we needed some additional capital improvement funds from the FAA. So we're able to work out an arrangement between FAA, DOT, us and the town of Rangeley where they had excess capital improvement funds that they didn't need that year. They were willing to allow us to receive that allocation. And then we have the cooperative agreement. I think we'll copy that. It just says that in future years, in this case, 2025 and 2026, we would not need our full allotment of FAA funds, and we'd be able to replenish what we borrowed to get the hangar done, so this is, allowing us to move forward and uphold that.
I'll pay back. Are there any questions from the audience regarding resolution 2555? Hearing none, any questions from the council? Hearing none, since we're ready to vote, all those in favor of resolution 2555, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, resolution 2555 passes. Moving on to resolution 2556. Yeah.
Resolution 2556, resolve to approve and sign a warrant and notice of election to call school administrative district number 53 budget validation referendum. 20A MRSA subsection 1305(2) and subsections 1351 through 54.
Look for a motion from the council.
Make a motion that we adopt resolution 25-56.
Second. Moved and seconded. This is
Just the notice that we have to post for the school validation as part of their process. Exactly a week from tonight, this will be a polling place and people will be voting to validate on whether to validate the school budget. And then we also have the special municipal election for the town as well.
all right. Any questions from the audience? Hearing none. Any questions from the council? Hearing none. All those in favor of resolution 2556, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, resolution 2556 passes. Moving on to discussion items. Are there any public comments this evening? Pretty rowdy bunch, but guess we're good. All right, moving on to councilor comments. Pete.
I'd just like to thank everybody that participated and helped us figure out the budget sheet.
Great.
And that's all I.
Great. Thank you, Pete. Craig.
I'll echo that. I know it's not fun coming in for the department heads and having to answer, especially when we're all trying to nickel and dime, myself being the prime suspect, but you know, it is very much appreciated, the effort that you guys go through and the dedication to the town. Jack, in 3.5 months, you've kind of shown us what it is to dig in and lead. And I appreciate that. I appreciate the organization. Quick answers. May not be ones I like, but they're answers. So you got them nonetheless, and I appreciate that very much. And then to my fellow council members, thank you. You guys are awesome. So good job. That's it.
Great. Heather?
I would just ditto all of that. I did have a question about the elective contracts. If we'll look at that at the next meeting.
I'd like to.
Email had said the July would be the time to, if we might pass it, was it June something? We have to push it into the July meeting or something, so we'll look at that next time.
Absolutely, look at a scenario or two next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the other thing was, I dropped off all the information for the Cheese Festival permitting. And I thought it was gonna be on this council meeting, but it's not. So, where we're at with that.
And you. Be on the next one, just fine.
Yeah,
Okay. No, oh,
I
yeah,
heard it in.
can we make
To
sure?
make sure it got
Is on there.
processed and stuff. We don't have to turn the alcohol permitting in until beginning of August, or middle of August, but.
Let's turn it upstairs somewhere.
Yep, I turned it into Hillary, and Nicole wasn't there that day, but she put it on her desk. It's actually like they taxed, so. Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of time to do it, I just wanted to do it.
Yeah, we're.
Once I do something, I cross it off my mind and I don't think about it again. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Natalia?
Glad that the budget season is done. Dax, thanks. Clear you know your stuff. I'll put it that way. You can make this as easy as it can be. Just really appreciate all you've done. Thanks, everyone. Really great leadership. Job well done. Craig, I appreciate your diligence and passion. Done, living for Random. Yeah, just job well done. Glad we got where we are. Thank you.
I just want to say, it's been a busy 3.5 months, and, I've enjoyed, being able just to learn so much so fast, it's, saved a lot of, going forward too, so and the amount of, help that the department heads have been in this process, bringing me up to speed, telling, kind of explaining a lot of the history, we wouldn't be, wrapping this up the way we are if, we didn't have so much, work by the staff, department heads to get me all the information, so I appreciate all that, it's been, they made it easy for me, so thank you.
Excellent, thank you, Jack. And yeah, I'll just wrap up by saying excellent job to everybody that was involved. Think I would probably go about this a little differently next year. I think it's gonna be important that in the next meeting or two that we get together and kind of set goals and expectations and all those types of things going forward and what we wanna see and accomplish and look into and prioritize. I think the Community Heart and Soul is doing surveys on some things, and so hopefully that information can come back and that might help guide us in the direction that we want to go. But yeah, it's a lot of hard work and frustrating things to look into and discover, but it's all for the betterment of the community, so hopefully people see that. I try to stay off of Facebook pages as much as possible. There's not too much positivity out there, but if anybody has any questions, there's certainly any counselor, Jack, most of the town staff can easily answer things and why we're looking into things and throwing out suggestions. I know there was a lot of concern with the dump and maybe some changes that are going on down there. But it's all to try to, provide the community with the best that we can and save as much as we can as well. So, with that, I guess I look for a motion. Nope.
I would just.
Yeah, everybody, don't leave. You gotta sign this stuff before you. Look for a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
What car are you driving today?